Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me. This is the fourth workshop for the Autonomous Apes AI Trading Hackathon. And very shortly, I'm going to invite Harish Kotra from Gaia to the stage so he can give his workshop. So Gaia are one of the bounty partners for this hackathon, and they're offering $5,000. So pay attention, because I'm sure Harish has got lots of stuff to tell you that will help you along your way in this hackathon. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Harish up to the stage, and he is getting ready now and will tell you all about Gaia. I think while Harish is coming up onto the stage, if anybody has questions that they want to ask, please feel free to do so during this call. There will be a Q&A towards the end of the session where Harish will sort of answer anything that you have. And this can be, anything from like in-depth technical to just questions about, say, what Gaia are looking for in their judging criteria. You might be, maybe even you have an idea that you sort of want to bounce off, and that's also not a bad idea. Hi, Harish, how are you doing?
Hey, Blake, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, well, thanks.
Awesome. Let me share my screen.
Great, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the workshop where I'm going to talk to you about what Gaia is, what you can do with Gaia, and a bunch of examples. I've got loads of examples, and also the deck to the slides will be available to you for you to refer it back to it later. But let's get started. I'm going to take about 30 to 40 minutes during this session talking to you about how all of you can host your own AI inference locally, which gives you full control over the knowledge base, the model, and how your inference behaves. Unlike black boxes where you drop in your PDFs or whatever information you have and hope for it to respond according to your liking, right? So that's what my session is going to be today about. And also, don't worry, there's going to be a demo, and I hope the demo gods are with me today. Let's get started. I'm Harish. I lead developer relations at Gaia. What I predominantly do is talk about Gaia and also build a lot of these examples. I also built an example doing a trading agent where you can build an agent that calls the recall API, which I think will be very helpful for all of you participating in this hackathon to build autonomous trading agents, right? That's what I do at Gaia. I lead the developer relations team. Prior to Gaia, I was running hackathons for over a decade for a lot of Fortune 500 companies with this company called Angel Hack. I've been a CTO before, but hardcore building is what I do today, and talk about Gaia and how all of us, individuals or entities, can host our own inference and have full control over how our own AI behaves. With that short intro about me, let's jump into it. I'm going to cover all these topics today, starting with what is Gaia, how all of you can customize and bring your own open source model depending on what your use case is. I'm going to tell you how to pick a model, where to find these models, and all of that. I'll also show you how you can customize it with a knowledge base. Here, knowledge base essentially means some form of data. It can be in the form of a PDF, it can be in the form of a CSV, text, markdown, whatever. And then we'll also launch a node with Gaia. I'll tell you what a node is. I'll also cover very high level, if you're a beginner to AI, some concepts that you will have to know. Very high level, you don't have to dig deep into it to be able to build an AI agent. So I'm going to cover all of those with the launch the node aspect of the agenda, and then I'm also going to talk to you very high level about what Gaia domains are and how Gaia network functions as a whole, right? And how you as a builder can leverage this network and build applications on top of inference, right? And of course, at the end, I'm also going to share with you a bunch of code examples and code samples that are already live on our GitHub, where you can access some of these examples, find some inspiration, find some ideas of what agent you would want to build during the hackathon. If you already have an idea, you can also think about and look through these examples and find some inspiration of more integrations or making your agent more comprehensive with a lot more functionality through these examples. With that out of the way, let's get started. I know I cannot see the show of hands on my screen because I'm sharing my own screen. But please react as to how many of you have already run your own inference locally. I'll give you about 5 seconds. If you've already run your own inference, by running your own inference, what I mean is you've downloaded a model of some form, whichever model that you tried out, and ran it on your machine, right? This can be your own GCP instance or your own laptop or your own tablet or mobile phone or even Raspberry Pi, right? With that out of the way, I have one more question, which is how many of you have used an open source LLM? Do react in the chat. I'll go through the chat when I pause for the demo and Q&A. How many of you used an open source LLM? If not, you are in the right spot. Today, I'm going to show you how these open source LLMs that are out there that keep coming. Almost every day, there is a new open source LLM that gets launched. So, how you, as a builder or as a participant for this hackathon or beyond the hackathon, can consume or use these open source LLMs and build meaningful applications, both on chain and off chain. Right. So, what is Gaia? While you see this beautiful visual in front of you, Gaia is a decentralized AI framework, which is open source, that lets individuals like you and me, or even entities, build, customize, scale, and also monetize their own AI agents. Right. If I were to summarize this into a one-liner, what I would say is Gaia is the bare metal of AI, where you can plug and play anything you want from the LLM that you choose. Here you can see the architecture of a node. What we call node in Gaia is what comprises of all of these things that you see in the center of the screen, which is you get the LLM, you get the retrieval augmented generation mechanism through Llama Edge and Wasm Edge. You also get function calling and tool calling. You also get a prompt manager where you can customize the prompts depending on what your use case is. There's going to be a lot of information that I'm going to share. So don't hesitate to ask questions once I'm done presenting so that we can make this more interactive and I can help you unlock a lot of your questions post the presentation, right? So don't worry about it. I'll answer all your questions. So the node itself also comes with a default vector database called Quadrant. But if you don't want a knowledge base, but just want pure LLM, you can still use the Gaia node. What you also get when you run a Gaia node on your machine, when I say locally, what I mean is it can be on your own laptop. I'll tell you how to pick a model based on what your laptop configuration is. Or it can also be a GCP Cloud Run, or it can also be an AWS server, or it can also be a Raspberry Pi, right? The the entire node is powered by Wasm Edge runtime, which enables all of these to be able to run on edge devices. Edge devices meaning laptops, phones, and all, like I keep saying, right? So what you also get along with the LLM is also an embedding model, which you can also use to generate embeddings. And also this embedding model is used to convert the user's questions into vector databases or embeddings, and then find relevant patterns in the existing quadrant vector database and send that to the LLM, which then creates the story, right? All of these may sound very complex to you. You don't have to understand all of these to be able to build an AI agent today, because all of these technologies are abstracted out. But the reason I cover all of these is to make sure you know how this works. So that tomorrow, if you want to customize or use the composability of the Gaia node itself, this will help you decide which parts of the node that you would like and which you can ignore or remove, right? So what can you build with Gaia? Today, you can build decentralized applications. You can build personalized AI agents, by which I mean you can give it your own data. While this is running locally, you don't have to essentially put this on an internet or host this somewhere unless you're building this for the public. If you want to consume it by yourself, For example, one of the use cases that I do is I have an agent that is trained on my GitHub repos, and it can help me document or write documentation or simple functions based on the way I write code. And this works fully locally on my machine, and I use it in my Visual Studio Code and Cursor, depending on which IDE I use for which projects that I built. Right, so those are called personalized AI agents that you can also build by giving it your own data and fully run it locally. You don't have to host it anywhere. Then there is digital twins, right? These are basically replicas of individuals or entities, right, that behave in a certain way. Most common ones is for individuals you can create, like for example, you can create a Steve Jobs AI that is trained on Steve Jobs' biography written by Walter Isaacson, or some of his podcasts or interviews or talks that he does, and then create a twin that talks like Steve Jobs. Then you can build applications on top of it where you can have this agent research and give you analysis based on your requirements or your questions or your conflicts that you have in terms of what you would want to ask Steve Jobs, right? That's a very basic example that I'm talking about, but the use cases are endless. Then there is, of course, decentralized AI agent marketplaces where all Gaia nodes are attached to the network, where you can consume today as a developer. You can call Gaia domains, essentially load balancers for multiple nodes, and build one single application or two, three applications or a mobile app that consumes inference from multiple domains, which means you can have the capability of having highly specialized agents. Domains are specialized agents, right? So highly specialized agents that can build or work for you in your application for a very specific task, because that's the whole point of Gaia node, where you have full control over not just the knowledge base but also being able to create specialized agents. Then of course all nodes come with an OpenAI compatible API, which means today if you're already building applications using OpenAI's platform, using api.openai.com, you can replace that entirely with your Gaia domain. I'll show you how this looks like in practical example once I get to the demo. But these are some examples of what you can build today with Gaia. But these are only very few that I picked that would potentially make sense for you as a hackathon participant. But these are not limited to just these use cases. All right. I'll cover a couple of topics that will be important if you are new to AI or AI agents. One is embeddings. Embeddings, essentially, if I were to take the liberty to make this as simple as possible, embeddings essentially are words or phrases converted to numbers, right? That's all. Now, how are these numbers converted? They are converted using an embedding model, Llama or GPT-4o or Mistral, Scotestral. All of these are LLMs designed to generate some form of output, right? Which is why they're called generative AI. Similarly, there are embedding models that only generate embeddings. Like I said, they only generate numbers for the specific phrase that you give it. So every word is converted to a number. Now, the important thing to remember here is for words that are similar, for example, joy or happy, which are similar words, they have similar numbers which are closer together. That's all you need to remember. Then there is all these embeddings that you create are stored in what is called a vector database. There are multiple forms of vector database. The one that you get when you launch a Gaia node is called Quadrant, but there is Pinecone, there is PG vector, Postgres vector, then there is VB8, right? Then there is open source, which is also open source. Bunch of them, right? Up to you. You decide where you want to store your data depending on your choice and the platform offerings that you get with the vector database. But essentially, vector database, if I were to give an analogy, it's like a storage where you have multiple boxes, and these boxes contain the similar words. So happy and joy are sitting in one word, right? So now how do you create all of this? You can create all of these using, there are a bunch of online platforms where you can submit your data or the raw text and get embeddings out of it. Or if you're a fan of doing all of this manually, you can bring your knowledge base in whichever form it is, PDF, markdown, CSV, or text, or like I said, whatever, right? And then chunk it, because every LLM again comes with a complexity of only having a specific context size. For example, if I were to continuously talk without taking a pause or a break, you would probably not understand what I'm saying after a point, right? Similarly with LLMs, every LLM comes with a context size, and this context size is becoming bigger and bigger with the advancements in AI. So today, I think Gemma 3, which is a model by Google, comes with a 128K context size, which I think is good enough for building AI agents that can write good code, right? So the simple steps of creating embeddings are bring your raw text, chunk it, and give it to an embedding model and get the embeddings and then store it in a quad inverted database. Don't worry, there are a bunch of tutorials online or videos that will help you do this. But this is an important concept for you to remember how you can provide knowledge to the LLMs. And this is important because uh, providing a specific knowledge base helps you control how the AI behaves and potentially helps you also reduce hallucinations, which I think is a feature today of AI that you get without you even asking for it, right? So, okay, now let's get into the demo. This is a QR you can scan if you have a mobile phone very handy with you right now. You scan this QR code and this will take you to the documentation where you can find how to launch a node. Don't worry, I'll do this and show this to you so that you are aware of how to launch a Gaia node and how to customize it with your own open source model and how to give it a knowledge base and so on, right? And then let's get into the demo, right? Okay. All right, now I think I can see the chat and also see if you have any questions so far. Okay, what is inference? Inference is basically calling an AI and getting the response. This whole action is called inference. Okay. Yeah, I think another question is to enable my agent to undertake trades is a solid alternative. It might potentially be the most solid and the best alternative where you can control pretty much everything with the AI itself. I have a demo also. I don't know if you've all been given access to the trading agent that we built with Gaia and Recall, but I'll still give you the QR later in the presentation. But I'll now quickly jump into the demo where I'll show you how to run a Gaia node, right? The steps are very simple. I'm going to drop the link to the docs in the chat here. This is where you can go. Yes, I will. Yes, Papa. I'll tell you everything. I'll give you the code base also. Don't worry. By the end of this presentation, you will have access to all you need to be able to be a successful participant that builds an AI agent that works, right? On the documentation, the first step is before you even start running a node, my recommendation is, depending on your very specific use case, pick the LLM wisely, right? There are different forms and types of LLMs that you can get today. I think if you go to huggingface.co/Gaia, GaiaNet, I'm also going to drop this in the chat for you to consume later. Here is the link. I'll tell you the space depends on the model that you pick, right? So if you scroll down, I think today we support about 222 models, right? There are a lot of models for you as a builder to pick from, right? Now, how do you pick these models? One, of course, is how much capacity do you have on your machine. For example, if I have a MacBook, let's assume I have a MacBook M1 Pro with 16 GB RAM. The best models that I can run are Llama 3.2 up to 7 billion parameters or 8 billion parameters. More than that, your system will not be able to handle it, right? Similarly, let's say you have 8 GB RAM machine or 8 GB VRAM GPU on Windows. If you're using Windows, you can run max I would recommend is 4 billion parameters, right? Where do you find this information? Each model has this billion parameters information in the name itself. Like you can see, if I zoom in a little, you can see 8 billion parameters is this one. This is 2 billion parameters. This is 4 billion. Sorry, 4 billion and 7 billion parameters, right? You can pick the model depending on your use case, like I said, right? Now, let's say you're building a simple text generation based application, right? I would highly recommend you use a Gemma 3. Like you can see, Gemma 3 is from Google. You can pick these as a use case. But models by default don't come with tool calling ability. So you have to pick a model that can do tool calling. Now, what is tool calling? Another new terminology that I'm throwing at you today. Tool calling, uh, I'll give you a little context before I talk about tool calling, is LLMs are dumb, right? You give them a knowledge base, or you're using an LLM as is, then you're only using it based on the knowledge base or the data that is trained, it is trained on. right? The 8 billion parameters that you see in the name, right, is the amount of data that it has been trained on. Now, this data is static based on when the model came out. Now, how do you provide the most recent or latest information to this model, right? The way to do that to an LLM is through what is called as function calling or tool calling. Now, tool calling enables you to call an API or an external tool and get the most recent, latest information from that API and provide that to the LLM. That way, your LLMs or your agents have the most recent available information. The most common use case in crypto is what is the price of an XYZ token, right? Or what is the price of historical price of how Ethereum has been doing in the markets, right? Or you can also find out how many transactions have happened on a contract, right? There are APIs already available for that. Now, if you want the most latest information, the way to do that is through tool calling. Now, not all models come with tool calling, right? Gemma 3 comes with tool calling. You have to look for these models if you want to call external APIs and then also pick the right size. So for tool calling, my recommendation is using this one specifically called Llama. I think it is called Llama 3 Grok, or you can also search for tool calling tool. Let's see. Yes. So it's called Llama 3 Grok 8B tool use, or you can use the default one that comes with the Gaia node. So let's go and see how to launch a Gaia node. Now that we know what all we need to think about before launching an agent, go to for developers and under this, go to setting up your own node. Don't worry, the instructions are pretty straightforward and you only have 3 instructions. The first one is you have to install the CLI, right? You have to install the CLI. This is the command that you copy to install the CLI. Okay. Once you install the CLI, the second one is to run Gainet init, and third one is Gainet start. That's all. Once you run Gainet start, what you have is a URL that you get, right? That's all. You can open this URL and start chatting with your agent. Now, I'm going to show you what I already have. I'm not going to install the CLI for the sake of time, but I'm going to show you how this works, right? So if you go to Gainet folder, which you get once you install the node, these are all the options that you have. There's a config.json, which is the source of truth for your agent. Now, inside this config.json, if you're able to see the screen, you have the chat URL, which is the large language model that you've picked to use. Like I said, for tool calling, I prefer recommending this one because this one is really efficient calling the right tools. But if you are picking a smaller model, remember you have to become more specific. The smaller the model, the more explicit and specific information you have to tell the AI to call a specific API, right? Then there is the embedding model, like you can see. If you've noticed, there is also a wallet address for every node, right? And then you also have the system prompt and the rack prompt. You can customize these based on the specific use case and tell the agent how it should behave, right? And then there is snapshot. This is where you provide the agent with the custom knowledge base that I'm talking about. If you're building a trading agent, you can give a knowledge base about what are some best practices in trading, what are the signs or things to look for when you're building a trading agent, and what the agent should look for as signs to perform certain actions, right? These are the important things that you should know in the node itself. Now, if you run Gainet init, what it does is it downloads the models first into your machine. Since I already have them downloaded, it won't download again. But once it is downloaded, all you have to do is Gainet start, and then this will start the node for you and give you the URL. Now, if you were to run this on an Amazon EC2, you can pick any machine that has T4 NVIDIA GPU, and you should be able to run 5 of these nodes on that one single machine, right? You can also run this on Fala Networks TE-based machines. You can also run this on rented GPUs. You can also run this on Google Cloud. You can also run this on your computer or even Raspberry Pi. So you can figure out, depending on the specific use case, you can figure out where to run this. I'm going to quickly take a few questions before this process gets done and we see the URL. Denny is asking, this is AI agent and recall network trading. I'm going to show you the agent, the code base for the agent once I'm done with the demo. Yeah, Baba, you can use the remote server to be able to deploy the Llama 3 Grok 8 billion tool use. You can also use Llama 3.2, which is only 3 billion parameters that you get by default when you install the node. How do you get it to work autonomously? I'll show you. There are a bunch of examples. Like I said, code samples and examples will be your place. I'll get to that once the demo is complete. Like you can see, there is a URL, right? Now, if you don't want the agent to have a URL, you can always pass local only as a command. All of that is also available on the documentation. You can just pass this command when you're running the start command so that you only get a local host, so that there is no uh, URL that you can get to chat with the agent. If I open this URL now, you should be able to see the chat information, right? What is this node about? Then you can click on chat with this node. You also get a OpenAI compatible endpoint, like I said, right? You can use this and run this in your command line, and this is fully now running on my machine, right? You can see this is the response. Depending on how fast your machine is or which model you pick, the response time varies, right? I am running this on a 64 GB M4 mini, so that's why this is faster, and I'm not running any other node today, so this is faster. But if you're running this on a laptop, this should take about 4 to 5 seconds. Responses will be slow, they are not super fast, right? Because you're running this on your own machine. Then you can also chat with this node by opening just the URL and clicking on chat with this node. This is the UI that you also get by default when you launch a node, where you can test out how your model is behaving, and you can also give system prompts where you can customize the system prompt and tell it how to behave, right? You can tell it, okay, you are now an expert trading agent in cryptocurrency, and you have so and so experience, and these are the patterns you should look for, and all of that information is fed in here, and you should save it and then run it and see how it responds. Now, for you to be able to do tool calling, you have to create an application, or you have to use a tool like N8N, or you have to use a tool like Langflow for you to be able to create an agent that performs a task autonomously based on specific triggers, right? That's the UI that you get, and that's how you launch a node. Now, the other thing that I wanted to cover is how do you now customize this information, right? All you have to do is very simple. I'm going to clear this very quickly and show you how you can customize this. One way to do it is you go to the folder itself and then open it in a code editor of your choice, and then you can change all the values here, right? These are all the values that you can change. You can play around with this. For example, there's a value called context window 1. This means that it stores the previous response that the AI agent gave you and the question that the user asked, right? You can increase this and see how the responses vary, or how the behavior of the agent changes. So you can always play around with this. Save this, then run Gaia stop. First stop the node, then run init, and then start again for you to be able to update the changes that you made here. Right now, simply you can just add the snapshot URL. Now, I know if this is your first time launching your AI agent, it is hard to understand the concept of knowledge bases or how this structure could look like. So don't worry, we've got you covered. If you go to the Hugging Face page, like I mentioned before, you can simply scroll down on the page all the way to the end, where you can find some of these knowledge bases that we use or we've created for you to try it out and see how it behaves and what the knowledge base essentially looks like. For example, if I were to open the Paris knowledge base and go to files, this is where you can see the raw text of what this knowledge base looks like. Right. So this is the knowledge base that talks about Paris. Right. Similarly, you can create a knowledge base that talks about best practices in trading, or what are the key signs to look for to perform an action, etc. Right now, all you have to do is convert this into embeddings. Like I said, that's something that takes you to run a few commands, and the tutorial for that is also available in our documentation, where we've covered for all types of files, markdown, text, or CSVs or PDFs. You can simply follow these commands. And at the end of this, what you will get is a snapshot file. I also have a bunch of videos on this. You can go through them once this workshop is done if you're really looking to customize. Otherwise, you can simply run the node and still be able to do tool calling and build your own agent, right? So you get a snapshot file at the end of this, right? If I were to show you in the Hugging Face itself, here you can see these are all the snapshot files, right? You can copy this download URL, Like you can see, this is a snapshot file, right? How do I know this is a snapshot? This is how you find out if this is a snapshot, right? You can copy the download link, go back to your code editor if you opened it in a code editor, and just simply add it in the snapshot. Now, depending on what dataset you added, it is always recommended to customize the system prompt saying, now you are a tour guide in Paris who knows everything about Paris and respond to the user's questions based on all the information that you are provided with about Paris from the knowledge base that you are provided with. That way, you tell the AI agent to only use the knowledge base that it has got, right? That's all. Now, if I were to talk about what is the other thing? Okay, sorry, I lost the chain of thought. Let's go back to our agenda, right? Yeah, we launched the node. We saw how to launch a node. We saw how to cover the knowledge base. Now, Gaia protocol, right? Like you can see, we have the node URL that we opened up, right, to chat with the agent that we just created. Now, what are the next steps, right? For example, Papa is asking, how do I make this to work autonomously, right? For that, you will have to create applications on top of it, right? You have to write code to use this endpoint as your AI inference, right? One way to do it is N10 is a no code example, right? Then there is the recall trading agent that I built, right, which autonomously goes and does actions, right? Whenever a user asks a question, right, you can simply automate this by writing code in a way where you're looking for triggers from CoinGecko's API or any other API, Zerion's API, right? Whichever API you want to use, you can always write triggers for you to be able to autonomously make this work for you, right? But this is an example where you can ask it a specific question and then it goes and does the action on the recall API, right? I'll give you the QR for this later in the presentation. But yeah, why join the protocol? I think if you're somebody who wants to contribute inference and earn some rewards, that's where the protocol comes into picture. If I were to show you today, I think we've hit 13 trillion in throughput through about 14.8 trillion throughput through 698k nodes that are currently available on the Gaia network. If you want to be part of it, that's when you can join, create an account and add your node information and join the protocol. Again, this information is also available right here on how you can join the protocol, submit your details, and potentially make rewards for contributing inference if you're somebody who has additional GPU with you or things like that. Right. With that out of the way, now let's get back to the presentation and see some code examples. I'm going to talk to you about some code examples that I have to show you, and then you should potentially get answers for all the questions that you've been asking me in the chat. Right. Okay. The first one is LangChain. LangChain is a framework or a agentic framework that lets you build applications both on chain and off chain. This is a TypeScript based framework, so you can use this example to see how you can call or build an agent that can perform autonomous actions on chain. I'll give you the deck of the presentation also, so don't worry if you are not scanning it right now. But then this is an example where you can see how you can autonomously create an agent that goes and launches tokens on chain. Right? You can define certain parameters, and then AI will give you potential names of the token and along with a short form of the token, and then goes on to launch it fully autonomously on chain. This is an example that you can see or look through the code on how this one launches a token on chain, on Celo specifically. Then this is tool calling. Like I keep saying, if you want to get real-time latest information from an API, or if you want to connect multiple APIs, which are also called MCP servers. I don't want to get into MCPs today as part of this workshop because it will now confuse you because you don't need it today if you're building a simple agent to do trading, right? You can get into it later once you are building a robust AI agent. It's something that you don't have to worry about today. But this example uses Zerion's API to get blockchain data, real-time blockchain data, and also answer questions back to the users. Then, of course, this one is the recall trading agent example where you can use a Gaia node, which acts as your LLM or inference partner and calls the recall API for certain actions, right? The URL for this is also available. You can scan the QR and get the uh, HackMD blog post that I wrote, where you have the code also that you can run by yourself. It's a Python code, so it runs in a single file, so should be pretty straightforward, right? But I'm available in the Encode Discord server if you have any questions or if you run into any issues when you're launching with Gaia. Then there is Toolkit. Now this one's something that we launched a couple of weeks ago from the dev team at Gaia, where we've constantly seen that the community is finding it hard to figure out which model will run on my machine, or how to pick a model, what is the size of the model that I have to pick based on my machine. This toolkit will help you figure that out very easily with prompts, and the toolkit itself will recommend which types of models you can run based on your machine's configuration. So this is something that you can try and use the toolkit to launch a node itself fully entirely with just a couple of comments, right, from the CLI. Then, of course, the cookbook. This today has about 31 examples, both in Python and JavaScript, TypeScript, where you can find different examples of apps, decentralized apps, or just purely code snippets that you can use when you're building agents or agentic experiences using both Gaia and other platforms. Because, like I said, Gaia is the inference layer, and whatever framework you want to use, like Eliza or Pydantic or Microsoft's AutoGen, or if you want to use Google's ADK, or if you want to use OpenAI's Agents SDK, all of them come on top of the inference. While your inference is the source of truth for your knowledge base and all the actions that the LLM wants to perform, and how people interact with this, or how you want to create autonomous agentic interactions, will be the choice of the framework that you pick, right? So that's how you build autonomous agents that perform autonomous actions, right? Then there is, of course, our TG group, where this is only for builders. This is not for airdrop farmers or anybody who's looking to see how to gain some token or rewards from the token. This is purely for builders. We have a very close-knit group of builders who are building on top of Gaia. So if you're interested, you can join in here. Like I said, this whole thing will be available to you post the presentation, so you can still use it after and scan it and join. Of course, now is the time for all the questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. You can follow me on X. All my demos or whatever I'm building, I drop them on X. In July, especially, I've been dropping one demo, one example every day. So you can follow me there to get all the latest examples or the greatest examples that you want to use as part of the autonomous apes hackathon that you're participating in. Okay. Seems Recall's trading infra requires you to use their MCP. Yes, that is true, but Recall has an API. So today our Gaia's MCP support is in beta, so it's not released yet, which is why my example uses tool calling. So if you're not familiar with MCP or anything like that, I think you can still use the API itself to create tools that are accessible to your LLM and let it do actions for you. Papa is asking, what have been your most productive trading strategies? I am not an expert in it, so I would like to skip that question. I am more of a technical guy, not into trading. No advice. Sorry about that. I think what I've noticed agent builders or AI agent builders do in terms of uh, making AI do autonomous trades is purely, I think so far, a trial and error exercise by giving AI or the agent itself some little money or crypto basically in assets, and asking it to play around with it and see how it responds, and then fine tune the model itself. Today you can't do that with Gaia. You have to fine tune the model outside and bring it and use it with Gaia. But play around with system prompts first and see how the agent behaves, or how the agent decides to do what based on what the trigger is. and then basically optimize your prompts. But fine tuning is the best way if you were to really build a solid trading agent that is an expert, that you want it to be an expert in whatever it is doing. That would be my recommendation in terms of making autonomous trades. Yes. Any further questions? If not, I hope this session was helpful in terms of figuring out how to launch your own agents using Gaia fully locally, right?
I think we've got one more sort of idea
Yeah.
pitch to you from Papa. It sounds like a very good one. What do you think?
Let's see. I have this weird idea. There was some research that founders who deadlift outperform others, premise being you could have an agent scout Twitter for those boasting about their Strava times and invest in their company. Yeah, absolutely possible. I think if you're able to pay for the Twitter API, it should be possible. I'm not going to talk about what are the other ways to scrape Twitter or go through Twitter and scout Twitter for these signs, if you were to do it. But yeah, it is possible. But what I would do is give a knowledge base to your agent, or give a lore to your agent, or even the prompt, right? Saying how it should behave or how it should take these as signs and then perform an action. You can't just say you're a helpful trading agent and expect it to do everything you want it to do, or do the specific question that you asked, right? Invest in their companies or tokens. It won't do it because LLMs are inherently dumb. You have to spoon feed them essentially. Yeah, you can clone my app, and what you get when you clone this very specific example is just one way to call recalls API. I'm only using one of the API endpoints to show you how you can potentially build on top of this. But what you have to do for your specific use case is much more, because you are a participant in the hackathon. I can't really fully build this out for you, right? So I'll give you high level what you have to do, right? First is figure out how to scout through Twitter constantly and get the data on who are these people who are talking about their Strava times, right? Then you have to figure out an API to get their company information and or the crypto token information, whatever strategy you want to use. Then that is when you have to give this information to the LLM and saying, this is the information that I have about XYZ, and this is the token of this person. Should I invest? Then the LLM will decide which API to call, or which recall API endpoint to call, or which API, if you're adding more APIs or more tools. For example, if you're adding CoinGecko's API to get historical data about that crypto token, then it will decide what all tools to call first, get this information, collate this information, and then perform the action for you. So all of these steps are something you have to build. That is not part of my demo. My demo or the blog article that I have is only going to show you how you can call one of the API endpoints autonomously, where LLM decides to call the API endpoint with a prompt that the user is asking. I hope that answers.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I think Papa's just. I don't know if you want to quickly have a look at that and see whether you want to see make billions. I see. Okay. So yeah. Well, thank you very much, Harish, and thank you everyone else. I always like to see Papa's ideas. They're very creative. And yeah, that was a really good workshop. So as always, these recordings are going to be posted to the Hacker Pack, so you can view them later on. And if you come up with any questions, having watched this, or say you're watching this on catch up, then please ask all the questions in the Discord, and all the experts from Recall and Gaia and the other sponsors will be happy to answer you and help you out with any technical problems that you might have. So yeah, thanks again, Harish, that was really good. And I'll see you all tomorrow for the next one. Great, thanks, bye.
Thank you, Blake, for having me, and good luck, participants, with the hackathon, and keep building.